So the four major civilizations we talked about, as you can see from this map, they're the same latitude, right? China's over here. Again, because of the Himalayas, they're blocked from the rest of the world, okay? But these three areas, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Indus Valley, you can see how close they are to each other and how they can easily access each other through the sea, right? And once they're able to access each other, they can then access other parts of the world as well. So right from the beginning, guys, it's really important, Western society was integrated through trade, through communication. And so the ideas, the people were always in exchange with each other. Okay, so you cannot understand the development of Egypt in isolation from Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. Okay, they were all influence each other. Unfortunately, because of Western prejudice, you're often taught that these things are separate from each other. Okay? But they existed in dialogue with each other. All right. So the cradle of civilization is the Middle East. Why? Because of the Fertile Crescent. Okay? So Sumer is where we consider the cradle of civilization. Because as I mentioned to you, it is the center of all global trade. It's where all civilizations meet. But as you can also see, it's also extremely fertile. Okay, so this has historically been the wealthiest part of the world. Strategically, it's the most important part of the world, and it's still true even today. Okay, that's why you have all these wars in the Middle East. That's why America is so supportive of Israel. Okay, so as I mentioned to you, what will happen is that because of trade, Uruk will become a large city. And then as the city becomes larger and larger, it will establish colonies elsewhere as well. And these will become the major city-states of Mesopotamia. And for thousands of years, they will fight each other until Sargon of Akkad unifies this region, okay? Sumer is impressive. They're known for their canals, they're known for their irrigation. And again, scholars are sort of mesmerized by how they're able to do this. But one thing that you learn in this class is that when humans come together for religious purposes, they're capable of doing amazing stuff. These are zaggurats, they're temples. Okay? And these zaggurats were the center of their civilization. Remember that all cities start off with a temple that then builds out outwards, okay? And these zaggurats are important because they are literally considered the home of their gods. And these places are sacred. So only priests are allowed to go inside it. People can deliver gifts to the gods through the priests. But the people themselves are not allowed to interact with the priests. And that's how the priests are able to keep control over the cities, okay? And the priests themselves are considered servants of the gods. This is cuneiform, okay? This is cuneiform, which is the first writing system ever invented. What's interesting about this is how they did this. So what they did was this. They just took clay from the riverbeds, okay? And then before it hardens, you just take a reed and you write down some marks in the clay. And then what you do is this. You just put it out in the sun and then it hardens, right? And it's there forever. That's why we still have them today, because rock does not decay, okay? And that's why we know more about Sumeria than we know about other places. For most of agricultural history, we celebrate the mother goddess, okay? But then, as I mentioned, over time, as society becomes larger and larger, the men start to take control. And so they inverted the mythology of the mother goddess. Now, the sky god, who is Marduk here, kills the mother goddess to create the world. Okay? A process of inversion. So, to understand this process, we will read the most famous epic from Mesopotamia called the Enuma Elish. Enuma Elish means from up high. So it's the Bible, basically. It's like what God told us. And this is a story of the creation of the world. Okay, so what's really important to understand is that all the stories are written down in stone, okay? And again, guys, they didn't have to do this because everyone was able to memorize the story line for line. And that's what we did historically. So why did they write this in stone? For propaganda purposes, right? It's the same as in today's world, you go see a film. When you see a film, you're mesmerized, you're hypnotized by the beauty of it. And you must think that this film must be the gods speaking themselves. Okay, you don't think about, okay, how did they put this together? Your mind doesn't think like that. Your mind's like, oh my God, this is an image before me, therefore it must be true. Okay, and that's why they wrote stuff down for propaganda purposes. Now, what's interesting is that there's different writing systems around the world. So in Mesopotamia, they had these cave tablets, right? But in Egypt, as you may know, they have papyrus. Okay, papyrus are these plants. They take out the plants and then put them together in the sun. Okay, and then they become like these scrolls that you can write on. In China, of course, have the paper. So what's interesting is that when the need arises for writing, we always find creative ways to express ourselves in writing. Okay? Papyrus scrolls don't really last that long. That's why we know less about Egypt than we know about Mesopotamia. All right, so the Enimra Elish was written on cave tablets. So let's go over the story, the Enimra Elish. So in the beginning, there are two major gods, Apsu and Tiamat. Apsu means fresh water. Tiamat means salt water. Okay? Fresh water, of course, is the river. Salt water is the ocean. Okay? When they come together to create all possible life, including their children, the new gods. Tiamat and Apsu create these new gods, but they're children, so they're really loud. And Apsu is like, you know what? These children are really annoying. I want to kill them. Tiamat overhears this, and Tiamat tells her children who rebel and kill Apsu. But then Tiamat's like, you know what? They killed my husband. So now she's pissed, okay? So she decides she's going to go kill her children too. She has a general, and there is this huge army, and they start to attack their children. These children are thrown aback by Tiamat. So they elect a new champion called Marduk, the thunder god, the sky god, to lead them into battle against Tiamat. And in the final battle, Marduk, who's also called BL, he kills Tiamat, okay? Now what happens afterwards is really interesting because after he kills Tiamat, the mother goddess, he takes her body, and then from her body, he builds an entire world. He builds both the sky and the planet Earth, okay? So let's read some lines. BL rested, serving the corpse, in order to divide the lump by a clever scheme. He split her into two like a dried fish, okay? So he literally cut her like a fish. One half of her he set up and stretched out as the heavens. He built the sky from her body. He stretched the skin and appointed a watch with the instruction not to let her waters escape. He crossed over the heavens, surveyed the celestial parts, and adjusted them to match the Apsu, known as abode. So Apsu was the husband who was killed. Beat measured the shape of the Apsu and set up Ezra, a replica of Escala, and Escala, Ezra, which he had built, and the heavens he settled in the shrines Anu, Enlil, and El. Okay? So what's important to understand is this. He's doing this to the mother goddess. Okay? So not only is Marduk proclaiming a new order, but he's also proclaiming new values of struggle, exploitation, toil, right? Before, the mother goddess was a religion of balance and harmony. Don't destroy things. Worship the animals as they're your friends. If you kill them, make sacrifices to them. And now this new religion is, no, destroy the world and make it yours, okay? So this is a civilization that practices irrigation, right? Because irrigation really is about controlling the earth. All right, let's continue. All right, so what happens now is that after Marduk creates the world, he has to establish a bureaucratic order, okay? A hierarchical order. So he says, he fashioned heavenly stations for the great God and set up constellations, the patterns of the stars. He appointed the year, marked off divisions, and set up 3 stars each for the 12 months, okay? So he's basically building a calendar. The idea here is that all these were bureaucratic inventions in Samaria in order to better govern the people, right? What this myth is doing, the Enimra Elish is doing, is proclaiming that the bureaucratic world is divinely ordained, okay? This didn't come from the priests, it came from the gods. The priests are just the messengers. All right, let's continue. All right, so now that Marduk has built this world, he's like, you know what? I'm tired and I want a place to rest. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build a house, which is my temple, and then I'm going to make slaves in order to serve me. And these slaves are called humans, okay? That's why we were invented, to serve the gods. Before we understood that the gods served us, helped us, or loved us. And now we must become slaves to the gods. Beneath the celestial parts, whose floor I made firm, I will build a house to be my luxurious abode. Within I will establish a shrine. I will found my chamber and establish my kingship. Okay? All right, so now he's going to turn humans into slaves. He conceived a desire to accomplish clever things. He opened his mouth, addressing Eel. He counsels that which he had pondered in his heart. I will bring together blood to form bone. I will bring into being Lula, whose name shall be man. Okay? All right. And the gods, by the way, are called the Anunnaki. Okay? That's why there are conspiracy theorists on the internet who say that we were invented by the Anunnaki. All right. So what Marduk does is that he takes his enemy, Tingu, and then he kills him, and then from his blood, he will create mankind. Okay? They bound him, holding him before Eel. They inflicted the penalty on him and severed his blood vessels. From his blood, he created mankind, on whom he imposed the service of the gods and set the gods free. Okay? Now, what's really interesting for us to remember is that throughout this poem, Marduk has different names, Bel, Eel, okay? And the reason why is that what happens in these epics is they take different traditions and they combine together into one composite story, okay? All right. After the wise Eel had created mankind and had imposed the service of the gods upon them, that task is beyond comprehension, for Nimrod performed the creation with the skill of Marduk. King Marduk divided the gods, or the Anunnaki, okay, the gods, into upper and lower groups. He assigned 300 in the heavens to guard the decrees of Anu and appointed them as a guard. Okay? So now he's going to create this hierarchy. So yes, all humans are slaves, but there's some humans who are better slaves than other humans, okay? And that's what explains the hierarchy. So as you can see, the enumerated ledge, it was written in order to justify the existing power structure. And honestly, this is a concept that's still true today, right? Why do we have schools? Why do we have media? Why do we have entertainment? It's to justify the existing power structure and social order, okay? All right. Now we get towards the end, and this is to establish that Babylon is the divine city. If it's divine, it means you can't leave it. You all want to be here, even though being in Babylon means you're enslavement, okay? Let us make a shrine of great renown. Your chamber will be our resting place, wherein we may repose. Let us erect a shrine to house a pedestal, where we may repose when we finish the work. When Marduk heard this, he beamed as brightly as the light of day. Build Babylon, the task you have sought. Let bricks for it be molded and raise the shrine. The Anunnaki wield the pick. For 1 year, they made the needed bricks, okay? So Babylon, the capital, is a city made by the gods for the gods. And then humans are there to serve the gods. Okay, so this is the divine order. This is the mandate of heaven.